welcome back to Play That Rock and Roll, where we take a look at the albums and artists of the classic rock era. Hey, do you remember when Canadian music wasn't a total joke?
Look at this graph!
Yes, there once was a time when our friendly neighbor from the north exported music that wasn't total garbage. Canada gave us Rush, Neil Young, Gordon Lightfoot, Bachman Turner Overdrive, and even the band. Canada's classic rock scene introduced us to a number of one-hit wonders as well. Guys like Kim Mitchell, Red Ryder, and whatever the fuck this is.
Today's subject is the best of those one-hit wonders. Even better than Prince. Even better than Queen. It's the Kings! Hit it!
Alright, maybe they aren't better than Prince or Queen, but they are a cool little outfit from Vancouver who hit it big in 1980 with their 2-for-1 single, This Beat Goes On, Switchin' to Glide. Since they appear to be drifting into obscurity, I figured we could have some fun by taking a look back at their career. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kings are here.
This beat go!
The Kings were originally known as Whistle King when they formed in the mid-1970s. After years of playing local gigs, they decided it was time to take their shot and make an album. When they began work on their debut, they renamed the band The Kings, and they all took on stage names, including Mr. Zero.
Well, that name is awful. Let me see if I can fix it.
Have his first name be saved and his middle name be Bye. And the other guy's name is David Diamond. What? Wow. Did he not realize that one of the biggest stars in America had a nearly identical name? Here's a theory on why they're a one-hit wonder. Diamond David Lee Roth found out about this guy and had him destroyed.
If we have to have a comparison, then fine. I eat you for breakfast, pal.
Anyway, when they began work in the studio, they ran into a man named Bob Ezrin, who liked their sound and agreed to produce for them.
Bob Ezrin was fresh off an album that you might recognize.
Yeah, he had just finished producing one of the greatest albums ever, so the Kings were in luck. Ezrin reworked their demos into their debut album, The Kings Are Here, in 1980. Their first single, This Beat Goes On, Switchin' to Glide, is actually a 2-song medley, in the same way Queen's We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions is.
This Beat Goes On is a really good song, but when it transitions to Switchin' to Glide, oh man.
This beat go!
That is one of the greatest songs of all time, and I will not hear otherwise.
And that was the best fucking song I ever heard.
Switchin' to glide. Switchin' to glide. Switchin' to glide.
And the rest of the album is pretty damn good too. I'm genuinely surprised that the next single, Don't Let Me Know, wasn't a hit as well.
You know I heard that story before. I can't listen no more. Baby, when you walk home, don't let me know.
See, that's really good. Now the rest of the album may not be as good as Switchin' to Glide. How could it be? But it's only a step down, and still very enjoyable, especially tracks like Run Shoes Running and Anti-Hero Man.
I just run and jump around. I'm anti-hero man.
With a hit single under their belt, the Kings were eager to conquer the pop music world, so they returned to work with Bob Ezrin the following year. The result, 1981's Amazon Beach, was a disaster.
Not to give it Amazon Beach.
song was originally written to be included in the 1981 cult animated movie Heavy Metal.
Heavy metal. A step beyond science fiction.
Wow, that would have been awesome. But honestly, there's not much you can do to improve this album.
Amazon Beach, however, is not very good. I like the Kings, so I can get through most of it, but that puts me out of step with most critics and fans.
You know who else doesn't like Amazon Beach? The Kings.
On their website, they refer to it as their Waterloo, and tell a story about finding a copy at a used record store, listening to it briefly, and then chucking it out of their car window. Anyway, the band blames Ezrin for the album's failure, as they claim he was often late to recording sessions, and he tinkered too much with their songs.
In other words, he was a producer.
Their label didn't like the record either, and the Kings were forced to choose between releasing the album as is, or going back and reproducing it without Ezrin. Since Ezrin helped deliver the Kings' first hit, they decided to stick with him despite their frustrations. They would pay dearly for this decision, as Amazon Beach flopped, and their label soon dropped them. The Kings sat on the sidelines for the next decade, only releasing a 4-song EP and then a live album, while their chances at stardom slipped away. The Kings finally pulled out of their stagnance with an album called Unstoppable in 1993.
Interesting choice for a title. It's got a can't keep a good man down kind of vibe to it.
By the way, do you recognize this intro? Sounds like the Kings had some excellent influences. Anyway, this is the Kings' return to form. It's clear they had no interest in chasing pop success or kowtowing to producers. They just wanted to create good music, and they did. They consider this their best album.
I disagree. It doesn't have Switchin to Glide. Well, some later copies do, so if you can get that.
Where have all the hippies gone? I can tell you that one. They all sold out. Remember? You can probably find some of them on Wall Street. By the way, check out these song titles. Lesson to Learn, Should Have Been Me, As If I Cared, even the title track. Intentionally or not, the guys were definitely working through some issues with having stardom snatched out from underneath them. A few years later, they released The Kings Are Here on CD, and added 3 of the better tracks from Unstoppable, as well as 2 newer songs that are also quite good.
This re-release is their best album.
In 2003, the Kings released their last album of original material, called Because of You. Their website still refers to this record as new, despite it being over 10 years old. These guys aren't exactly the quickest in producing new material. Kind of like Boston in that regard.
Don't because of you, everything is new.
Because of You is another high-quality record. It doesn't have any super standout tracks like Switchin to Glide or Unstoppable, but the songs are just as good as anything else the Kings ever put out. I gotta hand it to them just for their consistency. With the exception of Amazon Beach, all of the Kings' music is evenly good.
I would rather have one really good album every 10 years over 5 mostly shitty albums over 10 years, which is what you would get from most bands.
So what happened with these guys? They clearly had the ability to create enjoyable music, so why did pop success elude them?
In short, the record industry ate them alive.
When their label Elektra went head-to-head with producer Bob Ezrin, they backed the wrong horse. Turns out Ezrin wasn't infallible. This was the other big album he produced on the same year as Amazon Beach. Yeah, one of the worst albums from one of the worst bands of all time. Another little thing was that they never produced a music video for Switchin to Glide, which I think is weird. Mr. Zero has said he's glad they didn't, because most music videos look pretty stupid in retrospect. That's fair enough, I guess. But in that era, the birth of MTV meant that music videos were critical in making or breaking a new artist. Plus, bands had been making music videos before MTV, but those were just performance clips called promos.
Those don't look stupid in retrospect. What was wrong with doing one of those?
Ultimately, it wasn't the failure of Amazon Beach that did the Kings in, it was the 10-year stagnance that followed. You cannot remain relevant in the context of pop if you don't release new music. So what are they up to now? Well, Mr. Zero put together a short documentary that presumably tells the band's story better than I can. They've always toured regularly, and they still do when they can. They have also worked very hard to get all of their music available on iTunes and their website because, well, they got some good news a couple of years ago.
We finally bought back our songs from Warner Chappell in Los Angeles. It took over 2 years and lots of lawyers' fees and everything, but we pulled it off.
We own all our songs 100%, all the two original albums recorded with Bob Ezrin and
Yeah.
Switchin the Glide. So if you want to buy any product, anything, go to thekingsarehere.com or iTunes or anywhere else where the music's available.
That is excellent. That means when you buy their music, you are actively supporting this band.
Which is unlike most music, where all of that money is going straight to the label, especially for classic rock artists. And I don't have 2 seconds of patience for jerks like Gene Simmons, Don Henley, and fucking Metallica, who are going to lecture me about paying for music.
Do you want free music without the guilt of file sharing? Then check out your local library. Most libraries have massive CD collections that include current releases. Honestly, it's how I discovered the Kings.
Switchin to Glide was on this weird little 80s new wave compilation. In closing, the Kings prove that the term one-hit wonder does not mean a band with only one good song. Although pop stardom has escaped them, the Kings have consistently released very high-quality music.
The Kings show us that even though they aren't on top of the world, this beat goes on.
This beat goes! Nothing matters but the weekend. From a Tuesday point of view, like a kettle in the kitchen, I feel the steam begin to brew. Switching to glide, switching to glide, switching to glide, switching to glide.
Miami Vice, Don Johnson.
Good evening. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, he's got a record out now, and he came on the award show, so that maybe would help promote it or something like that. But nothing could be further from the truth. I wouldn't do something that tacky. It's just not my style. I'm here to simply announce the Best Female Video of the Year award. And the 5 nominees are